Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to discuss the Angiosperm diversity, and we'll start by classifying the angiosperms. So there are two main groups of angiosperms. These are the monocots and the eudicots. And if you remember, eu means true, so like eukaryotes. So eudicots means true dicots. In some textbooks, it is referred to as dicots. So the words eudicots and dicots are sometimes used interchangeably, although there are some differences between the true dicots and the dicots. But within the scope of this course, we are going to use the two words with the same meaning. Okay, so as you can see, the main difference is related to the number of the cotyledons. If we have one cotyledon, we are dealing with monocots. If we have two cotyledons, we are dealing with dicots. So to remind you, cotyledons are the seed leaves. So if you remember, the embryo within the seed, it consists of a root, and it can contain one or two leaves. So the seed leaves, the cotyledons, are the reason for classification of the angiosperms into their two groups. So starting with examples of monocots. Monocots can be exemplified by the orchids, the palms, the grains, the maize, the wheat, and rice, while the dicots can be exemplified by the roses, peas, sunflowers, and maples. So what are the criteria through which you can know if that plant is monocot or dicot? One criteria, and the most important one, is, as we said, depending on the number of the seed leaves. If it has only one seed leaf like that, it will be a monocot. If it has two seed leaves like that, it will be a dicot. So one way to know is by making a cross section in the seed and then looking to the number of the seed leaves. The next criteria is the arrangement of the leaf veins. So if you look in the leaf and you find it like parallel veins like that, this is a monocot. And the example we can give is the grass. While if you look at the leaf and you find the veins making like a network structure like that, so this will be a dicot. So think about maple leaf, and you'll find this network like veins within the leaf. So it is a dicot. Then the arrangement of vascular tissues of in a cross section of the stem. So if you find the vascular tissue scattered in the stem, that makes it a monocot. If the vascular tissue are arranged in a ring, that makes it a dicot. One other way you can depend on is looking at the root. So the root in the monocot, they are usually fibrous, meaning that there is no main root. So all the roots are like equally important and having the same thickness. You cannot recognize a main root. While if you look at dicots, you will find a main root like that, the very thick one, and then the others are like side roots arising from this main root. One example of that is the carrot. So the carrot is the main root of the plant, and as you can see, it grows very big, and all the nutrients are being deposited in that root. Then one other way also is by looking at the pollen. If you find one opening in the pollen, that makes it characteristic for monocot. If you find three openings, that is a characteristic of a dicot. So as you can see here, this is a one opening, this is another opening, and here is the third opening, which could be seen from the other side. The last characteristic is the number of floral organs. So by looking at the flower, if you find it multiple of 3, that is a characteristic of monocots. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So multiples of 3, that makes it a flower belonging to monocots. If it is multiples of 4 or 5, that makes it a dicot plant. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes it a dicot plant. So to summarize the characteristics of angiosperms and how they managed to live on the land and how they overcome the specific difficulties. So the first one is dealing with extreme temperature changes. As we discussed before, we have spores with sporopollen, and in addition of that we have the seeds. So as we said, the seed containing the embryo, and it has the nutrients, and it can remain dormant for very long time, waiting there, hanging out there, waiting for the conditions to change so the embryo will start growing. So if we look in a winter season from the window and we find the snow, so under this snow there could be many seeds waiting for the winter season to finish, and once the suitable temperature will come, maybe by the summer or spring, they will start growing again. So after that we have the problem of segregation of light, water and nutrients. So by having roots, leaves and vascular tissue, they have adapted to that problem. The problem of evaporation by having the stomata and waxy cuticle. The problem of reproduction, now they have pollen grain, so they don't depend on flagellated sperms, so because pollen can be carried by the wind or insects. And now they have also flowers and fruits. So flowers, they attract the insects and the pollinators, and the fruit attracts the animal pollinators mainly, so they can eat the fruit, and they help in the dispersal of the fruit to other places. And the last one is the lack of the physical support, so they have lignin in their vascular tissue, which gives them the physical support. So what are the products from the seed plants? What is the importance of seed plants? The first thing is nutritional supply. So they are important supply of the calories we consume as humans, and there is humans and other animals. And one of the statistics, one of the studies have shown that we have 6 crops that contribute to about 80% of the calories consumed by humans. So these are the wheat, rice, maize, potatoes, cassava, and sweet potatoes. As a side note, please keep in your mind that these modern crops are actually the products of relatively recent genetic change resulting from artificial selection. So in other words, so if we think about a fruit as a method of dispersal of the plant, it is a kind of a waste to store that much of nutrients in the fruits. So the ancestor of today's crops, they differed from today's or modern crops because today's or modern crops, they are actually the result of artificial selection. Our understanding of the genome of these crops has resulted in selecting the genes that help us to produce crops with bigger fruits and desirable traits. So in addition of the nutritional supply, seed plants help us to provide the wood, and thirdly, they are an important source for medicinal products. So many medicinal products are actually derived from seed plants.